Good evening. Thank you for joining us for Photo Live, a series of live stream conversations about the social and cultural role photography plays in our everyday lives. Produced by Photo 2021, International Festival of Photography, Photo Live expands on the festival's theme, exploring the relationship between photography and the truth. My name is Nanette Orly, and I'm the Assistant Curator at Murray Art Museum Albury. I would like to start by warmly acknowledging the Wiradjuri people as the traditional owners of this land for which I work, rest and play. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners around the country where this conversation is reaching online today. I pay my deep respects to elders past, present and future. I am joined this evening by Photo 2021 artist, Hayley Millar-Baker. Hayley Millar-Baker is a contemporary photographic artist from Victoria, Australia. We've had the pleasure of working together on the National Photography Prize at MUMA this year and for a written feature in the current issue of Vault magazine. Hayley is represented by Vivian Anderson Gallery in Melbourne and received a State Library Victoria Photography Fellowship to research a new work for Photo 2021. We will be having a conversation tonight for about 30 minutes, and then we'll open up to questions from people watching this live over Facebook. If you are watching, feel free to post your questions in the comments at any time during the talk. Hi, Hayley.
Hi.
So I guess we'll talk a little bit about how your practice began and then kind of delve into some deeper questions around the why. But you first trained in painting before making a conscious decision to move into photography as your standard medium. Can you give us some insight into why you think photography is a better tool for storytelling?
So I painted, I would say on my side that I was a serious painter from like year 9. And so I did nude paintings for a really long time. I went and did a Bachelor of Painting at university and painted for a couple of years after that. But I guess my nan would always say, you have to say what the work is about. And I was like, I don't know what the work is about. And I think that looking at that now is like a clear indication that like what I was trying to portray, the voice that I was trying to have and use wasn't strong enough using that medium. And so I think that like with all of the growth throughout the years and then figuring out that photography was, because photography is very, it's very convincing. So people will look at it and think that that is truth, you know, it's documentation. People in photography won't think that, but people on the outside, you know. So I just thought that that was a better avenue for my practice. And so I gave it a go. And it totally was, because I literally haven't painted since.
Yeah. And I guess with your practice as well and the kind of series of works you've produced so far, like there's kind of multiple stories happening within that one snapshot, which I figure like you can't really express that much through painting as you would in being able to kind of put together these different photo assemblages. Is that maybe another deciding factor? And like,
I mean, I feel like if I was to think about my work in painting form, I guess the busyness and the amount of elements that are in it, and the way that also I work would kind of be similar to maybe the way that Gordon Hookey places his imagery and builds his story that way, or even some of Ryan Presley's work. But the thing is that I didn't want it. I wanted what I had to say with my previous work to be seen as the truth, as documentation and kind of like rewriting things, different stories and histories or narratives or, you know, whatever And I wanted them to be seen as truth rather than as, you know, here's a painting, because you look at a painting and you know that it's not truth because it's not a moment in time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, you do have this amazing track record of bringing different historical truths to light with your photography. But yeah, I think it's pretty fair to say that you're not a historian, as you have somewhat been labelled, because a lot of your works do draw from like personal and also like fictional narrative. So how do you kind of balance morphing those facts with fiction in your practice, and how have you kind of not, I guess, categorized them in your previous series, but try to make them sort of distinct between as you're moving forward throughout the years?
Well, I think that the fact and fiction, all of my work is based on like strong research and fact of something that is very, very true. And then I guess it's just up to where I am comfortable with taking on those stories and where I am in my life, and an appropriate and comfortable way that I can make it, and that also it'll be received that way. Like I'm not forceful with any of my work, and I don't want to be like, you know, put it in your face. So I guess like nothing is like really fiction in my work. It's more that I use the storytelling vibe, whether it be, you know, that I'm adjusting some things to be correct or in a different way, or whether I'm using it visually, like using the visuals to capture people to go up and then look, and then they find more, or, you know, they read the side bit, the text, and get caught on it. So did you want me to go into the categories that I've sort of worked with? So in 2016, that was when I first did my first body of photographic works. And I guess it's quite simple the way that I made them. So what I was interested in doing was creating alternative childhood for my mum, basically. So my nan gave me my grandfather's archive and said, you know, here you go, you'll be able to do something with them. And so he had put in his stories pretty heavily into these photographs, but then I decided that I wanted to put in my stories over the top of them and change them up and give, like, you know, what if this was what their childhood was like? And so that body of work, I was looking at the alternative narrative, and I will bring up one of those photos now so you can see. Here you go. So this is, so that series that I'm talking about is I'm the Captain Now, and this is one of the works from that series. Like I said, it was my first photographic body of work. But what I've done here is that's my mum and her two sisters. And I've just added like little bits of cultural hints, I guess, into it. This would have been the late 60s, if early 70s. And just putting, like, you know, the little dilly bags with like their Sunday best and adding in the little bits and pieces. Other aspects that I've put into it are like changing shadows to be shadows of Bunjil, one of the creators, or incorporating eel traps and eels, things like that. And just even like little things around the house, changing like figurines to be more, I guess, culturally noticeable. And like I said, from those works, like my grandfather had his own idea with what he was doing with those. So it wasn't like they were real in the first place. Yeah. So that was the first body of work. And from there, I took on combining narratives, which was from a body of work called Tomorrow, which was in 2017. So just for reference, I'm the captain now in 2016, was from my first year of Masters of Fine Arts.
Right.
Tomorrow was from my second year, and that was combining narratives. So that was taking narratives of my experience, my nan, her mum, but also the experience of like the land and social change and political change, environmental change, all of that sort of stuff, and combining it into one image that was just like chaotically sort of built. And the more you look at it, the more you get lost in it. So after that one, I did reclaiming narratives, which was a series of unwarranted events. So I'll bring that one up for you so you can see that one. This is from a series of unwarranted events, and I think that this is the body of works that has mostly been seen around the country. So these are 4 works that are about frontier violence or frontier disruption. And so these stories are not, they're not my stories. I mean, they belong to my mob and my family and our history, but they are written about, they are in books, they are passed down through families. So it's not like if you wanted to know these stories, you couldn't go out and easily find them. But what I wanted to do with this, which was, reclaiming the narrative, is be able to have it from an Aboriginal voice to say, yes, these things did happen, they are true, and then to be able to put them into venues where it could be seen and would be accepted as a true story. Because I read somewhere that once something is entered into the public, then it's given a type of authenticity to it. So like a physical thing going out into public, it becomes authentic. And so that's what I wanted to do with these works here, was just reclaim the stories from our side, not from like the white author side, or, even one of them, the Convincing Ground Massacre, there's an author in England, and he has basically dedicated his entire life to writing that this Convincing Ground Massacre is a myth and didn't even happen. So I'm just reclaiming the stories. They're not new stories. They're not, a lot of people know them, whether you are just into, Aboriginal histories or Australian histories, those stories are there. People know them. I just wanted to give a visual to act as, so people can connect to something. Yeah. So they're the 4 types of narratives that I've written. Well, and the 4th one is reimagining narratives, which is what my Photo 2021 work enters into. Yeah.
That's really great. Thanks for sharing those works. I think it's really kind of clever to distinguish like your series as different kinds of narratives and like the purpose that around, like the decisions that you had in creating those series. It's kind of nice to see you evolve, I think, in your practice over the last few years. And, with your like UTS survey coming up, maybe, it's just kind of like a nice, it's a nice way to acknowledge that like those narratives have been changing and shifting up until a point. And with this new reimagining narrative, like you're going to be taking your practice to a completely different mode, which is really exciting. But I guess, yeah, did you want to talk about the early career survey?
Yeah, so it has been rescheduled to 2021, but I haven't confirmed dates yet. So it is still happening. But yeah, so I think what you were saying with like the progression of the works, like I said, I feel like what I was ready to take on as the narrator in my work, because that's how I view myself, as the narrator. Like I'm taking on, you know, I'm not taking sides of anything. I'm sharing a story, but in a particular way. So like that very first body of work, I'm the captain now in 2016. You know, I wasn't at that point, that's what I was confident enough to be as a narrator, to sort of be more playful. Whereas like the new body of work that will be coming out next year between Photo 2021 and the Melbourne Art Fair, Reimagining, at this point, like I just turned 30 earlier this year, and it's 2020, it's a new decade, which I thought this year was going to be absolute life-changing, and it has been, but like in all the ways that I did not think it was going to be. So, but like I felt like, okay, I've spent the last 4 years, even though that is like, I am well aware that 4 years is absolutely nothing. I get that. But I feel that my growth in that time has given me the confidence enough to be confident in me as like a narrator, but also me as the person with the stories.
Mm.
So reimagining narratives coming up for 2021, they are going to be stories from like my childhood, but reimagined, looking at it as an adult. And I guess they're just going to be like mega amplified and a lot more fun, but still based on history, and then also still based on like my parents' history and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so having them all together, I mean, that new body of work won't be ready for the UTS show, but having all of those works together, I guess for me, they're very, very different. And every time I look at them, I sort of need to put on a different sort of thinking hat when I enter them. But yeah, there'll be 5 bodies of work, because at that point it'll be 5 years of my practice, which again is absolutely nothing. But
still substantial. You can achieve a lot in 5 years.
yeah, I mean, it's been a whirlwind, but yeah, 5 years, there'll be 5 bodies of works, and I guess yeah, it will be like a celebration of my growth and the stories that I have been able to tell, and the way that I've been able to tell them in, and who I've been able to do justice to by sharing those stories. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah, and don't be so humble. It's really amazing.
I know, but I read this, what did I hear it from? It was like, don't judge your 2 years or something to somebody's 30 years. Actually, I think Marie Clark might have told me that. And last time I saw her, and I was like, you're absolutely right. Because I said like, oh, I need to do this and I need to do that. And she's like, just chill. Like, you know, that person has been around for decades. And I was like, yes, yes, you're right. So that, like, yeah, that brought me back down. It was like, yeah.
Maybe we'll take this point to like kind of talk about your Photo 2021 work then. So in the past, you've left your photo assemblages kind of unpopulated, apart from like a sneaky insertion every now and then. But with this new project that you're presenting, so you're going to be featuring in this work yourself. Can you kind of share with us what motivated you to step out to front of the camera this time?
2020, new decade, 30, new decade. I was like, this is it. This is my shot. And then it came the day to actually step in front of the camera, and I was like, I should have an actor here. but I guess they're my stories, and I guess over the past few years that people have sort of got to know me through my work, and I just thought that I should give a face to my work, especially for this particular series. And my gallery, Vivian, said to me the other day, she goes, you know, you're sort of an enigma. And I was like, oh no, like I definitely need to, like, I need to be in my work in some way. So so I'm making this body of work totally different. Normally my process is that, I mean, actually the making of the work has been the same, but the shooting process has been a little bit different. So like normal, I went out and I basically cased the entire Victoria, the coastline and the mountains over a couple of months to get all of my elements that I will need for my scenery. And then the second part of that was that I basically went in front of a green screen and played all of the roles that I would need me to act in them, which I mean, I was saying that I was like super confident in like going into this and being like, yeah, I'm going to do all of this. And then as soon as it went on, I was just like, oh God, this is wrong. So, but what I can't show you the actual work because that needs to wait for 2021, but I can show you a couple behind the scenes. So I will bring that up. Okay, so here's one here. So this was my amazing shoot assistant, Jade Florence, who is also a photographer. I just plugged her. Okay, anyway. So without going into too much detail, I mean, you can kind of tell what's going on.
Nice.
Yeah. So all of the props that I used were from my nan's house. So they were her. So I like to, in my work, I keep everything really relevant to personal things. So like, you know, if I'm going to use a tree from somewhere and it's a particular story, I go to that place and take the photo of the tree there. I don't just take a photo of any tree. And so, you know, I just thought that it was perfect that I'm talking about, in this work, multi-generational and I guess family experiences and things like that, without going into too much detail, that I would use props from my family. So they're my nan's knives. I have only really seen her use them to like butter toast and stuff, but they're like proper hunting knives. They're pretty brutal.
Yeah, they look too sharp to butter toast.
She's a great lady. Yeah, they're pretty full on. And so all the props were from there. So that's me sitting on the ground getting set up with Jade assisting me with the fake blood in my hands. And yeah, you can see the rollies on the left with the light stands and the reflection screen behind us. And then here's the other one that I've got. So this one here, there's meant to be like a bit of fear in my face. You can't really tell because the hair's covering it, but basically I had to run back and forth like 70 times to get that shot because I was going so quick and the flash had to like try and keep up. And then like my hair would be in my face wrong, or like my face would be doing something ridiculous. So we had to just keep going and going and going. But yeah, I basically had to sprint like in a matter of like 3 meters to be able to get like that movement. So these images here, they're just the outtakes, but yeah, there's a ton of them. And so I had a photographer, Simon Strong, who did that whole setup and took those images. So basically it'll be the same process as my other work. They get cut out and then I'll be inserting myself into scenes with all the different elements to bring together like a really amplified story. And because it's based on amplifying childhood ideas and I guess daydreams and things like that, it's going to be a little bit full on wild, like, yeah. I mean, that's what I hope. And that series is called I Will Survive, and that is the platform that's coming off the Photo 2021 work, which is like the historical setting, like to be able to platform off that. Yeah. So it's in the full body of work, I'm the character and I'm playing all these different roles, but with the same face.
Yeah.
So it's meant to sort of act as like the experience and the history and things like that, you know, that they are passed on from person to person. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. I think we'll have one more question and then we'll move to some of the questions that have popped through Facebook. I guess when we were working together on the Vault issue, one of the things that you said that really resonated with me personally as well within my own practice and the way that I think about the world is trying to create work outside of anger or disappointment. And yeah, I guess I just wanted to kind of expand on that notion a little bit more with you, because I think we had some really interesting conversations about that while we were writing that piece.
Yeah. So in the whole process of me making the work, it is really emotional with all the research. I mean, some of it's not, but a lot of it is like a series of unwarranted events. For example, for all that research that I did before it, I based that research off everybody who was not the correct source to be telling those stories. And the way that white people write about minorities like full on. It's really dreadful, and they do not spare language at all. Yeah. And it's just really, really brutal. So I made that body of work as well when I was pregnant with Maeve. And yeah, so I was just like, I'd be sitting and reading all day, and I'd just be reading of all of the different ways that like my mob was like basically that was slaughtered and things like that. And then the way that people were writing about it, and then placing my family into, you know, what years that was happening. Like, who would that be? That would be my nan's great grandmother, who would have seen, been, heard it, you know. And then, yeah, so that would make me really emotional. But I guess my process is with whatever I'm telling is that I need to be able to overcome that during the process of the research before I get to the building. So I'm not putting, I guess there's always going to be emotion, but I'm not putting my emotion into it. I'm staying neutral. Because if I did put my emotion into it, I feel like it would start to maybe distort the story. And I don't really see use of my emotion going into it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I am beyond grateful for all of the angry Black women out there and all of the work that they do. But what I'm doing, it's for like a healing thing for me to be able to get through those bits and pieces. But then to put something out that can reach everyone, it's just a lot more useful than putting something out that's extremely filled with emotion that people might look at and be like, I can't connect with that, or that's too much for me to connect with. Yeah. Because the stories that I'm telling are so important that I can't really risk that.
Yeah. I find when in contact with really angry work, the kind of message that is trying to portray does get a little bit lost because you are so confronted, and then you can't really see past the anger as well when you're like trying to look beyond and try and find more positive things to focus on, like change and like resilience. And yeah, those things are never really at the forefront of what those works are trying to say, which is quite sad because.
But there are a lot of smart ways to do it though.
Yeah.
Like Gordon Rookie does it really smart. Vernon Arkey does it really smart. You know, like a lot of people, you just got to think of, you know, what's your access point? Like, is it humor? Is it you know, whatever it may be? Is it visual? Like, you know, the visuals, are you going to get sucked into the visuals before you hit hard with the message? Like, taking my emotion out of it isn't taking any of the loaded story. It's just giving I guess, an easier access point for everyone and anyone to gauge with before they get sucked in, and then they're hit hard with that information. And yeah.
All right, I might go to some of the questions that have popped through. So just curious about what your painting influences were. I think that there are painterly elements within the laying and storytelling within. This is a terrible example, but Bosch created paintings with so many details in different worlds. I am interested in how painting may still influence you.
Okay. What I learned through painting from my 9 years of painting training, I still apply them the exact same way as I apply my photography. So, you know, building up a background, and then, you know, just the whole planning and building everything up and starting to really layer things. So the way that I built them is the way that I built that. But towards the end of my painting, for maybe like 2 years, I was painting monochromatic black works. And so basically everything was taken out of that. You know, any characters, any visual cues for anything. But the way that I still made it was still very much the same. It was still building up all the layers, making sure that, you know, if the brushwork needed to show, how it needed to show, how I was going to do it, why it needed to show, you know, that sort of thing. So towards the end of my painting, I was totally obsessed with Rothko. But then at the start, when I was like from year 9 for the rest of high school, my influences were Matisse and Degas and like all of those amazing classic artists. And I guess like, yeah, I would look at the way that they would paint and try to copy those and take those skills and, you know, put them into my work. So I think that everything that I have learned along the way with painting has also afforded me to be able to make my photographs the way that I do. You know, I'm not a straight photographer. I'm not sure that I would even call myself a photographer. But yeah, everything that I do is still painting related.
Yeah. This is a really interesting question. We comprehend the full value of what we encounter only after it's moved from this world into the realm of memory. Why do you think we see so much better with the eyes of memory than we do in reality?
Because our memory saves itself the way that we want it to be saved. I think in the moment things can be a lot, and maybe this has a lot to do with history, because I've been thinking a lot about history lately. For instance, today I watched Night at the Museum with my daughter, and I was like, it's amazing that we save so much of history, but like, is the history, like this present moment, that history, is that going to be saved in like, 1,000 years to come? Is this part going to be important, or are we just like, is it just that part that's important? So I think that, I mean, that's totally different. That's all like, mummies and Tutankhamun and things like that. But I think once you get to process it and you move past it, and the way that your brain allows you to remember it, whether that be good or bad, you have that choice. I'm sure at the time, looking back at, this new body of work that I'm making as a child, like the works that was about was like legit fear and survival and things that I thought were like super important. But looking at it now, it's just like, you're an idiot, young Hayley. But I'm so glad that those memories were saved the way that they were, so that now I can, revisit them, and I'm so fond of those memories. They're the memories that, like, I'm going to tell Maeve, and because of those memories, I take Maeve to those places now, and she gets to experience those things. I don't know if I've answered this question, but
No, I think you have.
I'm going to just keep going on.
No, I think that's pretty interesting, and I did really enjoy your art and music.
Memory is a lot better than reality.
Yeah,
reality is scary to deal with.
It is. Yeah, and memory just has like a really like a beautiful connotation anyway, in that it is nostalgic, right? So like,
you don't have to be embarrassed, to be critical about it, because it's the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if, that's a good question.
That is a really good question. All right, there's one other one, and then I think we'll wrap up. Is there a conceptual decision behind using black and white within your work?
Yes, there absolutely is. I imagine that it was all in color, it would be absolutely hectic. I took all the color out because I just thought the way that I make everything from, singular trees to singular bushes to literally making rivers out of singular ripples, that if everything was in color, it would, you'd be able to catch all of these things rather than just let it flow and accept the story for what it is, and what is built in front of you for what it is. Also, because in the beginning, I was using a lot of my grandfather's archive to blend in, and then I was taking photos and blending it in. I was also using a few different cameras, which I have here. So I started using this camera, which takes photos in a different way to this camera.
Yep.
And then also, if things don't work out for me, this camera. So, it's easier for me to be able to blend all of that in a way if one fails or doesn't go, because everything is on location. I mean, if the tree doesn't work out the way I want it to work out, I can't exactly drive like 5 hours back to take a photo of a tree. But saying that, I have done that, and it's not really worth it. So reducing the color on top of taking the extreme busyness out of it gives me the opportunity to be able to blend those stories without it being totally noticeable that everything is like multi-generational, and to be able to make my grandfather's photography, if I'm using that, blend with my photography, and that blend seamlessly in a way to be noticeable, but not just like clunky. Yeah.
Makes sense. All right. Well, I think that might bring us to the end of tonight. Thank you everyone for joining in. I'd like to now proceed with a whole bunch of thank yous. So thank you, Hayley, for sharing with us this evening. and giving us a bit of deeper insight into your work. I'd also like to thank Photo 2021 for hosting this event, and for Photo 2021's founding partners, Naomi Milgram, Bill Bowness, and Mark Henry, for their ongoing support. Thank you to the State Library of Victoria, who awarded Hayley the Photography Fellowship, and to the City of Melbourne Arts Grants Program, who have supported the development of Hayley's work for Photo 2021. Thank you also to our live captioners, Lachlan and Marissa. And please join Photo Live again on Thursday with Magnum photographer Christina D. Medell. Please note that this will actually be at 10 a.m. rather than 6 p.m. And the final Photo Live will take place this Sunday at 10th of May at 6 p.m. with Atonga Tim. Finally, if you'd like to read more on Hayley's practice or any other of the Photo 2021 artists, please visit photo.org.au. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Bye.
Bye.